told you that getting your coworker to cover your shift so you can finally go to the dentist actually requires the exact same psychological toolkit as negotiating a hostage release with the FBI.
I mean, it sounds totally absurd when you put it like that.
Right, it sounds ridiculous.
Yeah.
But the mechanics of human persuasion are, well, they're surprisingly universal. So, welcome to the Deep Dive.
Glad to be here.
Today, our mission is to completely reframe the concept of selling. We're taking sales, which is, a word that usually makes people picture a fast-talking guy in a cheap suit pressuring you to buy a lemon of a car.
Oh, absolutely. The worst stereotype.
Yeah, and we're transforming it from this intimidating, purely transactional thing into an essential everyday tool for your life.
Which is so necessary.
It really is. And we're pulling from a really fascinating transcript today from the YouTube channel Afro Being. It's a video titled The Value of Selling.
Yeah, it's a great source.
And the speaker in this video starts with this personal story that I think perfectly captures the exact moment most of us become terrified of putting ourselves out there.
It's a brilliant starting point, honestly, because it strips away all the corporate jargon. It takes us right back to childhood.
Exactly.
It exposes the raw, underlying psychology of trying to just offer something of value to another human being.
So picture this scene from the speaker's formative years. Their dad grew vegetables in the backyard, and they had a particularly massive harvest that season.
Too many tomatoes, probably.
Probably. There was all this excess supply that just needed to be disposed of before it rotted. So this kid gets hit with the entrepreneurial bug.
Oh, I love that phase.
You can probably picture it, right?
Oh, well.
It's that classic innocent lemonade stand enthusiasm. The kid is practically vibrating with excitement, ready to take on the neighborhood.
Yeah.
But instead of lemonade, it's a pile of backyard vegetables.
Which is such a universal childhood experience because at that stage, the enthusiasm is completely pure.
Right, there's no baggage.
Exactly. There's no fear of failure yet. Just the absolute unshakable certainty that you have something great and, well, people will obviously want it.
Right. So the moment arrives, the very first customer walks up to the stand. The kid is absolutely beaming. They smile, they say, "Good morning, sir."
Classic.
The guy looks at the spread and asks, "How much for the vegetables?" And the kid, full of confidence, says, "Only $4.
Oh.
And the guy just looks at the vegetables, turns around and walks away.
Oh, man.
No sale, no counteroffer, just a silent rejection.
It sounds so minor to an adult, but for a kid in that scenario, it is a devastating, worldview-altering moment.
Because the speaker points out a massive realization they had right then and there. As a kid, they wrongly assumed that what they were selling was something everyone inherently needed.
Right.
And maybe more importantly, something they could afford. They just assumed the value of those vegetables was universally obvious to anyone walking by.
And the psychological weight of that rejection, is profoundly impactful. That single moment, as the source notes, unlocked a brand new fear for this kid.
Fear of embarrassment.
Yes, embarrassment and self-consciousness. It wasn't just about losing out on $4. It felt like a personal rejection of their judgment, and their effort.
Yeah. It's personal.
Exactly. The conclusion the speaker draws from that encounter, which, by the way, maps perfectly onto a conclusion almost all of us have drawn at some point, is simply this. Selling is hard, and it hurts.
It hurts. Yeah.
That fear of embarrassment sets the stage for everything we're analyzing today. The absolute dread of putting yourself out there, offering value, and having someone literally turn their back on you.
Which perfectly explains why selling gets such a bad reputation in the first place.
Completely.
If our baseline definition of selling is just awkwardly asking for money and risking public humiliation, well, no wonder we actively avoid it.
Who wouldn't?
Right. But here is the pivot the source makes. To get over that childhood fear of embarrassment, we have to completely uncouple selling from the idea of a financial transaction.
That's the key right there.
If sales has a dirty reputation, it's just because we've defined it way too narrowly. The speaker breaks down the actual functional definition. They say, selling isn't fundamentally about the financial benefit. It's about getting people to buy into you.
Buy into you. Yeah.
It's about persuasion, trust, and connection.
And that shift from transaction to connection, it changes the entire landscape.
How so?
Well, when you redefine selling as the art of getting someone to buy into your perspective, you suddenly realize that you are engaging in sales constantly.
Like every day.
Every single day, whether you realize it or not.
Yeah, the source gives these highly relatable, everyday examples that are just incredibly accurate. Like you're selling When you convince your teammates to buy into a background idea you've had rolling around in your head,
Right.
you're selling when you sit down and try to convince your boss to give you a pay raise.
Oh, definitely.
And my absolute favorite, this is the funniest one in the text, you are selling when you are able to get your colleague to cover your shift for the 12th time because of a, quote, dentist appointment you've supposedly been dealing with all year long.
The legendary perpetual dentist appointment.
We've all known that person.
We have, but I mean, it requires an incredibly high level of persuasion and social capital to pull that off 12 times without someone calling your bluff.
Okay, let's unpack this. Let's unpack this because this is where my brain gets a little stuck.
Sure.
If getting my coworker to cover my shift for a totally fake recurring dentist appointment is considered sales, does that mean we are just constantly manipulating each other?
That's a fair question.
Because it almost sounds like we're all just everyday lobbyists for our own lives,
Yeah.
twisting arms and pulling strings to get what we want from our friends.
Right. It's a really valid distinction to make, and it's a trap a lot of people fall into when they start studying persuasion.
Because it feels gross.
Exactly, but the text actually addresses this by explicitly grounding the concept of true selling in connection rather than extraction.
Okay, connection versus extraction.
Right. Manipulation is about extracting a favor at the expense of the other person. You win, they lose.
Right.
But true sales, as defined in this framework, is about reinforcing interpersonal connections. The text points out that a successful pitch must invoke emotion and mutual benefit.
Because if you're just using people, that connection degrades very quickly. I mean, you certainly aren't getting that shift covered a 12th time if your coworker feels used or tricked.
Precisely. Real selling in our everyday lives means you're pitching your ideas or your needs in a way that actually aligns with the other person's reality.
Oh, I see.
You're building trust rather than burning it. You are asking them to buy into you as a reliable, connected partner in that environment.
So if I've got their back, they've got mine.
Exactly. If you cover for them when they need it and you've built a foundation of mutual respect, then asking for a favor isn't manipulation, it is an exchange of social trust.
Okay, so it's less about tricking them into compliance and more about navigating the relationship so that they genuinely want to support your goals.
And that requires significantly more thought than just blindly asking for what you want.
Right.
You can't just stand there, hold out a pile of vegetables, and ask for $4 while expecting the world to comply. You need a highly responsive strategy.
Which brings us to this amazing concept from the transcript, the mental gymnastics of selling.
Yes.
The speaker directly compares the act of everyday selling to being a chess master. You don't just move a piece and hope for the best, You're constantly evaluating the board.
The mechanics of that chess metaphor are fascinating.
How so?
Well, being a chess master means you're thinking 1 or 2 or 3 steps ahead of your opponent's moves. Now, opponent might sound a bit adversarial.
Yeah, a little intense for a Tuesday shift swap.
Right. But in the context of everyday life, your boss, your teammate, your spouse, it just means anticipating the very real constraints and reactions they're going to bring to the table.
Building on that, it means getting rid of the old way we approach these conversations. It's not like throwing darts blindfolded and just hoping one randomly sticks to the board.
No, not at all.
I actually think about it more like a GPS continuously recalculating based on the traffic it anticipates ahead.
Oh, that's a great way to put it.
Right. You have a destination, say, getting a raise, but you have to adjust the route based on the roadblocks your boss throws up.
That GPS analogy is spot on. You have to actively run through the scenarios and build out a dialogue tree in your head before the conversation even happens.
Like planning your route.
Exactly. If I say X, my boss might say Y because of, say, upcoming budget cuts.
Sure.
If they say Y, what is my move Z? This is the mental gymnastics the source is talking about. You're adjusting your strategy based on the specific, unique person you are engaging with, rather than just delivering a generic monologue.
So if you are listening to this right now, and you're planning to ask for a raise or pitch a project tomorrow, you need to mentally map out your boss's constraints tonight.
Yes. Do the homework.
But that brings up a huge logistical problem. Anticipating someone's moves in a mental chess match is incredibly difficult if you don't actually know how to influence the pieces.
It's basically impossible.
Yeah. How do we practically execute these chess moves without triggering the other person's defenses? Fortunately, the source provides us with 2 very specific, heavy-hitting tools to master these mental gymnastics.
The toolkit.
Exactly. Let's start with the first one, storytelling. The transcript brings up an international speaker named Daryl Johnson and points out how Johnson uses his war stories to effectively sell ideas and connect with an audience.
Storytelling is the ultimate vehicle for that emotional connection we were dissecting earlier.
Right.
When Daryl Johnson uses his war stories on stage, he isn't just reciting a chronological list of facts or presenting a spreadsheet of why his ideas are technically correct.
Nobody wants a spreadsheet.
Nobody. He is drawing the audience into a narrative structure.
Which makes total sense when you consider how our brains process information. I mean, if I come at you with a bulleted list of reasons why I deserve a promotion, your brain immediately goes into evaluation mode, right?
Absolutely.
You just start looking for the flaws in my argument.
Yes, that is the transactional wall people put up the exact second they feel they're being pitched to. But a story bypasses that defensive wall entirely.
Wait, really? How?
From a psychological standpoint, it's called narrative transportation.
Narrative transportation.
Yeah. When you hear a story, your brain actually syncs up with the storyteller's emotions. You stop evaluating the facts and you start experiencing the journey.
Oh, wow.
It creates deep, immediate empathy.
It makes the pitch human.
Exactly.
So instead of saying, give me a raise because I increased efficiency by 12%,
yeah.
you tell the story of how the team was like completely overwhelmed during a massive crisis last quarter.
Yeah.
How you noticed the bottleneck, the late nights you spent figuring out a new workflow, and how it finally brought relief to the whole department.
Because then you're no longer demanding a reward. You are inviting them to participate in the resolution of a shared conflict.
That's a massive paradigm shift.
You're contextualizing your value within a narrative they actually care about.
Wow. Okay, but stories only get you so far, right? They set the stage. How do we navigate the actual back and forth of a tough conversation?
That is where the second tool comes in.
Yes. And this brings us to the second tool in the transcript, which honestly blew my mind a little bit. Calibrated questions.
These are so powerful.
The source brings up Chris Voss. For those who aren't familiar, Chris Voss is a former FBI lead international kidnapping negotiator.
Not your average sales guy.
No. And he's the author of a wildly popular book called Never Split the Difference. The text highlights Voss's use of open-ended questions, what he calls calibrated questions, to carefully guide high-stakes conversations.
This is a crucial, deeply tactical piece of the puzzle.
But I gotta ask, how does an FBI counterterrorism tactic apply here? Are we basically supposed to treat our coworkers like hostage takers, holding our Tuesday morning shift hostage?
It's a funny image.
Do I need to negotiate with my boss like they have a bunker full of my potential salary?
I mean, it sounds extreme to pull from hostage negotiation, but it perfectly proves the universal nature of this framework.
How so?
Whether you were dealing with a bank robber or just a really stubborn project manager, the underlying human desire for autonomy is exactly the same.
Well, that makes sense.
When Chris Voss talks about calibrated, open-ended questions, he's giving you the exact tool you need to play that game of chess we discussed.
Okay, so how does a calibrated question actually work in practice?
A calibrated question usually starts with the word how or what.
Okay,
Never why, because why sounds accusatory and it triggers defensiveness immediately.
why did you do that? Yeah, I hate that.
Exactly, and it is never a question that can be answered with a simple yes or no.
Give me an example of the difference.
Okay, let's use the shift coverage scenario. If you ask a closed question like, will you cover my Tuesday shift? You're forcing a binary response.
Right.
You're backing them into a corner where the easiest, safest answer for their own schedule is simply no.
Right, because I'm demanding compliance. I'm literally the kid shoving vegetables in their face and asking for $4.
Exactly. But a calibrated question completely changes the neurology of the interaction.
Okay.
Instead, you ask something like, how are you handling the workload this week? Or, what would it take for us to swap shifts so I can finally get this tooth looked at?
Oh, wow. You aren't just demanding a yes or no. You are basically opening up the entire board.
And here's the deeper why behind how this works. When you ask a calibrated question, you're giving the other person the illusion of control. You're granting them autonomy. When people feel cornered by a direct demand, their amygdala, the fear center of the brain, flares up. They get defensive.
Fight or flight.
Right. But when you ask a how or what question, you engage their prefrontal cortex.
Wait, the problem-solving part of the brain.
Yes, you are literally triggering their brain's problem-solving mechanism and asking them to collaborate with you on a solution.
You are making your problem their puzzle to solve.
Yes. These questions aren't interrogations, They're how you discover the exact chess moves the other person is planning.
All right.
When you ask, what would it take for us to swap shifts? They might say, well, I need my Friday night free.
Boom. Now you have a piece of data you didn't have before.
Exactly. You gather critical information about their constraints, their needs, and their state of mind. You gently guide the conversation forward while making the other person feel entirely heard, respected, and in control.
Which is amazing.
And that loops right back to the core premise of the text, which is building connection.
Because they feel like they're collaborating with you, not being commanded by you.
Absolutely.
That completely changes the power dynamic of a relationship. It's not a kid on the street corner blindly assuming value and getting crushed by rejection. It's a nuanced conversation.
Right.
It is a mutual exploration of value where both parties feel like they are winning.
It is the profound difference between declaring your worth to the world and inviting the other person to discover that worth alongside you.
I love that, and that actually brings this whole narrative full circle, right back to that childhood vegetable stand.
It does.
The speaker reflects on this at the very end of the video. They say if they had possessed these tools back then, if they had a mentor in their early years to help build their confidence, to teach them the mental gymnastics of anticipating a customer,
Yeah.
how to craft a narrative,
Yeah.
and how to ask calibrated questions to figure out what the customer actually wanted, they might have become a vegetable billionaire.
A vegetable billionaire. It's a very funny, evocative image.
It is.
But the underlying truth there is actually quite profound.
What do you mean?
Well, the lack of those tools, the lack of understanding that sales is a collaborative chess match rather than a blind demand, is exactly what allowed that fear of embarrassment to take root. Without a toolkit to process the rejection just shut down that innate entrepreneurial zeal.
Which is something so many of us carry into our adult lives.
Yeah.
We let that fear of a no stop us from even making the pitch in the first place.
Every single day.
And the source addresses this directly and seriously at the end. You do not have to let your dreams wither away because of a fear of embarrassment or humiliation.
No, you don't.
So what does this all mean for you, listening right now? It means we have to fundamentally stop viewing selling as this gross, aggressive, money-grabbing activity.
Drop the stereotype.
Exactly. Selling is not just about closing a financial deal. As the source concludes, it is about opening doors of opportunity.
Beautifully said.
It's about building deep trust and, quite simply, getting things done in the complex world we live in. Whether it's advocating for a raise, pitching a creative project to a skeptical team, or just getting a little schedule help from a coworker.
Yeah.
Your ability to sell is, at its core, your ability to connect with other human beings.
And if we connect this to the bigger picture,
Yeah.
if every meaningful interaction requires some form of selling to build connection and understanding, what happens to the relationships at work or even at home where we have completely stopped trying to sell our ideas and just lazily expect compliance?
Oh, wow.
Are we inadvertently closing doors of opportunity and maybe breeding resentment simply by forgetting to ask those calibrated questions, just assuming everyone should automatically buy into our reality?
That's a heavy thought.
It is something to seriously think about the next time you need a favor.